On this channel, we talk a lot about how to use the advertising platforms to get the most out of your ad dollars. We talk about a lot of different strategies and nuances to make sure that you're really getting the most out of the platforms. But sometimes we need to take a step back and outside of those platforms to find a new way to improve performance, looking to a third-party provider. And today, we're going to talk about one of those that's my favorite, Unbounce, the world's leading landing page and conversion optimization platform. On Unbounce, you can create landing pages, set up A/B or multivariate tests, and track conversion performance and determine which variant is going to work best, all within this platform. To be quite honest, I've already messed up a lot of these intros because I keep wanting to talk about too many things that Unbounce can do, and I just end up going off the deep end. So rather than messing up yet again, let's go ahead and hop into the Unbounce platform, and I'll show you all the cool things that you can do to improve your PPC campaigns. Before we get started, pay attention to the link that's at the bottom of this video pane. This is the affiliate link for Paid Media Pros. As I'm going through this video, at any point, if you decide that you're sold, you don't need to see any more, you can go to this URL, which we'll put in the show notes for an easy reference, and you can sign up to get a 14-day free trial and a discount on your Unbounce subscription if you sign up through our link. Once you log into Unbounce, this is what your homepage is going to look like. This is where we'll be able to see all of the different pieces within our account and be able to get where we need to go. Everything on the left-hand side are things that I'm going to touch on in a little bit, but in this main big portion of the page you'll see here, this is where all of the landing pages that you have created are going to be listed. As you can tell, I don't have any landing pages created yet, so this is where we're going to get started. So I'm going to come up here in the top and I'm going to click Create New. That opens up the beginning of building a landing page. And over here you can see that we do have a few different pieces we can build. Landing pages, pop-ups, sticky bars, AMP. The only portion I'm going to talk through in this video are landing pages. If I talked through every single thing that Unbounce could do, I would be here for 5 hours and nobody wants to watch that video, let's be honest. So we're going to focus on what Unbounce does best, in my opinion, and that's just the landing page builder in and of itself. When we create a new page, you'll see that we have a few different options. We can choose a template. There are 100 different templates that we can choose from to start a brand new landing page on Unbounce. All of these are listed here. You can just simply scroll through, find one that works for you. Once you've decided on one that you want to use, you can click on it. It'll open up this preview so you can see what the desktop version looks like. Scroll through each of the different pieces in here, kind of understand what the layout looks like, what the different components are, that sort of thing. You can also switch to have the mobile version so you can see what that looks like. This is one of my favorite things about a lot of the landing page builders that are out there right now, is that they allow you to have different pages built for mobile versus desktop, since we live in certainly a mobile first world now. You'll also notice that one of the quote-unquote templates is a blank page. You can start with a completely blank page if you don't want to have any assistance from the get-go. This is somebody who knows exactly what they want to put in the page. They already know where everything is, and you just want to get in, start building. You don't want to have to customize something else. That's not what I'm going to do for this video. I think it's going to be easier for me to show you most of the things this builder can do if I start with a template. So I'm going to do that for today. But if you already know everything you want to do, you can start with a blank page and build everything from scratch. For right now, let's hop back over to this template that we started with. We'll come over here down in the bottom right and we'll give it a name, and then we'll choose Start with this template. Now we're in the Unbounce landing page builder itself. This is where we're going to make the changes to the landing page to customize it and make it look exactly like we want to. A quick rundown of the layout of this portion of the builder. We have over here on the left the contents of the page. So each of these different portions is going to be a section of the page. You can see when I hover over each of the pieces that are parents of the pieces below, it highlights all of them. So this benefits section contains box 1, 2, 3, and each one of those contains text, benefits, and icons. So if we want to quickly scroll to a portion of the page, you can click Benefits, and it scrolls me right down to this portion of the page, and you can see there's a dotted line around this section because that is what I currently have selected. As you can tell, maybe benefits is a very easy name to understand, but box 1 might not be. So maybe you want to change the name of this. You can just come over here on top of the text, give it a double click, and now you can change the text to be whatever you want. Now we know that this is benefit 1. So if you are trying to scroll through a number of different portions of the page, you can easily know what each of these things are. You'll notice that when I did that, this little blue button up in the top showed up because I've made a change to the page, and Unbounce is encouraging me to save that change. Every time you make an adjustment to an Unbounce page, this button is going to pop up blue and say that you need to save it because your changes are not saved. This is a very easy way to know if you have the page saved or not. And you should treat this exactly like you would any sort of other document or Excel sheet that you've worked on. If you've been working on it for a while and you haven't hit save, sometimes your machine will autosave. Unbounce will not do that. You need to save all of your changes before you exit, and usually Unbounce will prompt you to make sure that you have saved your changes before you leave. That way they're not abandoned, but you do need to make sure that you save everything before you publish the page. So for right now, let's go ahead and click save. And now the button has turned back into the dark color because I haven't made any changes that aren't saved. So the left-hand portion is how you navigate to different sections of the page. This next step here, this small little set of icons, is going to be how you add different elements to the page that aren't already there. So as we can see here, we have the header section of what's going on the page. So this has our title, it has this image, it has the form available, and then it has some additional text. And then now we're down into the benefits section. If we wanted to have something in the middle, you can add a new section to the page by clicking here, dragging, and you'll see that a little gray space just opened up between these two. If you then let go of the cursor, a new section has been created. This is quite frankly what it looks like when you start a page from scratch. There's nothing there. You need to add in all of the sections and all of the different pieces to your page. But again, we wanted to start with a template so you can see what it looks like when we adjust different portions of the page. Looking at all of the different pieces that you can add to a page, you have the section that we just went over, a box, text box, image, a button, lightbox button, which will open up a lightbox. This is a form, but you can only have one form on any given Unbounce landing page. And since there's already a form here, this is grayed out. But if we were to delete this form, you'll notice that the form pops right back up because we now can put a form wherever we want to. Let's say I decided that I don't want to remove that form and I want to put it right back where it was. You can come up here and click undo, and now the form is right back where it was, and this button goes right back to being grayed out again. You can also embed a video or add custom HTML to your page wherever you need to for whatever reason. So each of these different aspects are the elements that you can build in an Unbounce landing page and then customize later on. One of the reasons I chose the template that I did is because I know that this template has a number of these different elements throughout the page, and I do want to show you as many examples as I can without going through every single fine detail of the page. And when I do that, I'm also going to be showing how to use the editor bar up here at the top, as well as any of the different editor functions over here on the right. These are going to be the ways that you impact the elements, whether it's through the order or where they're showing up, or any of the customizable pieces within each of those elements. So let's go ahead and go through some of the different portions of this page and we'll talk about what that looks like. We've already added a new section to the page, so let's just go back down to my blank section. And when I clicked on that, you'll see that this entire section over here changed quite a bit. The geometry section over here lets you choose how wide, which is blurred out because the page is set at 940 pixels, or you can choose how tall you want this section to be by adjusting the height. So let's say I wanted this to be a bigger section. I can either adjust the number of pixels here and hit enter. Now it's 500, or because this platform is extremely user-friendly, you can also come over here, highlight over the bottom, and then just drag this section up. You'll see that the number changed so that it's now 235 instead of the 500 that I set. So there are going to be two ways that you can impact most elements on this page. It's by either coming over here, clicking, dragging, moving things around, or you can adjust it over here by using the different elements in this right-hand panel. You can set borders around the section if you want to. You can also soften the corners. You can change the background color. Right now it's a solid color, but you can change it to be an image, a pattern, solid color, a gradient, or a video if you want any of those. So if we wanted to change it to a gradient from a solid color, we click on that. You can see that the base color is here, currently set to white. You can then click on this, and if you want to change the page to say, I don't know, red, you can choose that. And now you'll see that the gradient colors are in here. Right now it's automatically choosing my top and bottom colors, but if you want to, you can unlock this and then you can add in the HTML codes for each of the individual colors, or you can choose your top and bottom colors from the picker itself to customize what those look like. So if you have your two brand colors and you want it to go from one to the other, you can customize those in whatever way you want, or you can leave it back to the standard gradient that Unbounce has set up. Toward the bottom of this editor over here on the right, you can change the element metadata if you want to, but one thing I do want to call out is when you are creating anything in Unbounce, you're going to be given an ID and a class for each of the different elements. So this element specifically, this is going to be the ID saying that this LPPOM block 267 is only referring to this section and this entire section every time you use that. You'll also then have the class here as well, which is again the same block. If you are going to use any sort of custom features where you want to navigate to a specific portion of the page, you'll need to know where these IDs are. And I'll show you an example of that here in just a minute. But for right now, let's keep going through some of the different elements that are on this page. Now let's scroll down to the benefits section that we looked at a little bit ago, because I want to highlight a few different elements that are here. The first thing is you can tell that we're in an entirely new section. But within that section, there are a few different pieces. So this white box outline here, this is going to be the box element that we see over here on the right. We then have 3 specific smaller images, and you can tell that every time I hover over one of the different elements on the page, Unbounce will highlight it with one of these little dotted lines to tell me that I'm on a new element. So adding a new image would be this icon over here. And then down below, we have a number of different text fields, and all of those are going to be this T icon over on the right. So to show you how the builder works a little bit, let's go ahead and just say that we want to add a box of color behind these 3 elements within the benefit section. It won't serve any purpose other than just letting me use the builder and show you how a few different of the builder tools work. So first I need to come over here, click the box icon, and drag and drop it. You'll see that when I'm dragging it, I have not let go of the button on my mouse just yet. There is going to be a checkered background to show where I am adding this box in terms of organization within the page. So right now I'm adding it to the entire section. But if I come down here a little bit, you can see that I can add a box within the white box that's already there. So pay attention when you're trying to add different elements to your Unbounce page, because it does matter where you put them. So let's drop it behind this entire piece, because I do want this to show up behind all of the benefits boxes. And then we're going to take a look at where it shows up in the left-hand navigation that we looked at earlier. Once I've dropped that in the new section, you'll notice that box 4 showed up over here in the benefits section. And it is above benefit 1, box 2, box 3, because it's not within them. If I wanted to organize it within this different piece, you'll notice that it jumped below benefit 1, and it has a tab over because now it is inside of the benefit 1 box. So that's how the organization on here works. I'm going to take this back out, and now let's just try to orient this the way that I want it. So if I want it to be behind all of these elements, I might make it look something like this. And to adjust the size, you just grab the corners, you can get the arrows, make it as big as you want. But now I've got a little bit of an issue. This white box is over all of the benefit statements that I want it to be behind. This is where the top navigation comes in. We can click send backward, and now you'll see that each of the different pieces is going to start popping up. We only got one of these sections here. We only got the first benefit section. So let's keep clicking send backward. Now we've got benefit 2. Let's do it again. Now we've got benefit 3, and everything is out in front. You can see when we hover over, all of the different white boxes highlighted there. To make it a little bit easier to see, I'm actually going to come over here and start looking at what the right-hand navigation looks like and what we can start to edit on this piece. So the same thing with the section. You can change the size utilizing these different pieces here. The position is something that we didn't see with the sections, because this tells us how far from the left side and how far from the top of the section that it is in, we've placed this box. So we're only 27 pixels from the left-hand side, 33 pixels from the top portion of the section that we're in. Same thing here, we could add a border, but for right now, I just want to change the color background to be something that stands out so we can make it look a little bit different from everything else. So let's change it to be a blue color. We'll do this. And now you can see that each of those benefit boxes that we had in place in this section are now being backlit effectively by the blue box that we just added. For the most part, that's how you edit everything within an Unbounce landing page. If I wanted to come over here and adjust something in the text, I can come over here and click on top of this text box. Now I have it selected. You can see that I can adjust different alignments of the text that we have within the box. I can also change the properties just like I can with everything else. And if I double click, I can change the text itself. You see that when I did that, the cursor came up. So let's say I just wanted to change this benefit statement and take this second sentence out just to make it shorter. You would edit it just like you would any other text box. When you're in here, you can adjust a lot of the different styles just like you would in any other text builder. You can choose the family of font that you want. So right now it's set up to Roboto, but there's a lot of different fonts that you can choose from and adjust however you see fit. So there's plenty of different options here. And if you do have your own font, you can add a completely new font from an external file if you want to. So you can customize these pages changes pretty specifically to what your brand guidelines are. You can then adjust the size of the text and the line spacing between each of the different pieces. So let's just look at what line spacing looks like over here, because this is something that I think gets people caught up a little bit. We all know what the text size is. We go from 14 to 18. That part makes sense. But the line spacing helps us see how crowded our text can be. Right now it's at 22. That still looks pretty good, but you can change it to 31 if you want. And now there's more space between each of the lines within our paragraph that make it a little bit easier to read if you have your text be a little bit too crunched. The bigger you make the text font size, the larger you're going to want your line spacing. Otherwise, things are going to get really crowded really quickly. You can change the text color to be whatever you want. Again, you can use an HTML code or choose from the color picker that we have over here. So right now it's dark. If we wanted to make it light, easy change to make. You can then adjust whether you want it to be bold, italicized, underline, strike through, superscript, or subscript if you want to have your formatting look like that. You can also adjust some of the different pieces over here by either aligning it left, center. You can add in different bullet points, a numbered list. You can indent the text. And then we're back into other pieces here that we've seen before. Geometry, where it's aligned within the element that it's in. It can have any different borders that you want to have. You can also have the background properties, changing colors, all that good stuff. So there's a lot of different pieces here. This background property, if you want to have it be a solid color, let's say we want it to be something that's just a bright color, so we can make an example. So I chose red, but you can see that the opacity is set at 0. If we want to make this highlight, just pull this over. It's horrendous and difficult to read, but now you get to see what the functionality does. Again, I don't make pretty examples on this channel. I just make it so you can tell easily what the functionality is. Let's turn this back off because my eyes hurt too much. So that shows you how you can adjust any of the different text pieces. And all of these elements here, whether they are the additional paragraphs or this different headline, all of these are just text elements as well. Images are relatively self-explanatory. You can click on an image. You have a lot of different elements that you can adjust over here on the right, and you can change the image itself and go into the image library that you have available. Obviously, as this is a placeholder account, I have no files available to upload and change my image, but you can find different images through Unbounce's public image library. One of the biggest roadblocks I see when people are trying to build landing pages is that they can't find images, icons, any visuals to go on the page that will express what they're trying to sell. This tool is amazingly helpful for that. You can see if you need a 5-star review, they've got an image that you can use. They've also got some stock imagery that's available if you're selling coffee, something like that. There are lots of different images that you can utilize on here, tons of different icons to help tell the story of your business on your landing page without having to spend lots of money ending up having to go out and get different icons made, get different images made. There are a lot of things that you can do here. And if you want to just come up here, you can search the image library. And let's just say we wanted to put an image of stars in here. Once you type that in, you've got a number of different things that come up. Obviously, the first 3 are probably the most relevant, but you can scroll through and see a number of different pieces here and just see what pops up. There are more stars down below. There are also some more stock images, that sort of thing. So there's a lot that you can find within this library to customize your landing page. If you still need additional images, you can come to Unsplash here. And this is going to be something similar to Pixabay or Pexels, where you're going to be able to find lots of different stock photos that you can add into your landing page to help, again, customize your page to tell the story that you want to tell. Don't be shy about digging through any of these image libraries, whether it's Unsplash or Unbounce public images, to customize your landing page as much as you possibly can. You can then adjust any of the alt text or the title for the image once you've chosen the one that you want to have. And then down here, you'll see that there's a click action, but I actually want to show you that example and how that functionality works with a button instead. So let's scroll down here a little bit because I know there's a button on this page somewhere. There we go. This element here is going to be the button. And again, this is going to be what you would find over here by dragging and dropping into the builder. When I highlight over this, we've got a lot of the same things here, geometry, and we've got the button label where we can adjust the text that we want to have. So right now it says claim now. If we wanted to change that, just come over here and type in whatever you want the call to action to be. Easily done. Now our call to action button is learn more instead of claim now. Now I talked about the click action section just a second ago, so let's actually walk through what that is. When you have a button or an image, as you could tell earlier, or if you have any sort of link within the text that you have on the page, you get to choose what action happens when the user clicks on that. There's going to be a drop down over here. Right now it's selected to go to URL, which effectively means send this person to this other page when they click on this button. You choose go to URL in a lightbox, which, to be quite honest, lightboxes are going to be too advanced for this video. This video is already getting long. You can also show a lightbox, which I encourage you to go check out in the Unbounce help section if you want to know how to set up lightboxes. You can choose call a number or send an email. So if somebody wants to get in touch with you, especially if they're going to be on a mobile device, it might be great that when they click on that button, it automatically dials the number for them, and all they have to do is click call, and now they're getting in touch with you directly. So for now, let's just leave it as go to URL, and you'll see that the URL field is down here below. Right now, this example is showing you what I alluded to earlier, where it's got the hashtag and then the element ID down below. So as you can see down for this button, the element ID is all the way down here, and it's this POM button 93. As you can see here, this says block, and if you'll remember when we added a new section to the page, that called out a specific block. What this means is that when somebody clicks this button on their Unbounce page, it is going to take them to this specific block on the landing page. So I'm going to do two things here. I'm going to show you how this works, but I'm also going to show you the preview functionality within Unbounce. Every time you are working on a page and you have everything saved, you can come over here in the upper right and click preview. That will then open a completely new tab where you can see either the desktop or the mobile version of your landing page as you've saved it. You'll remember earlier we saw a preview of what this template looked like. As you scroll down, you'll see all of the ugly stuff that I've done. But if you come all the way down to the bottom where we find this call to action, I've changed it to learn more. But remember, as you can see in the bottom left here, that's going to take me to block 2. So if I click on this button, it brought me all the way back up because this header section, this top section, is block 2 on the page. That is the element. So it scrolled me all the way back up here so that I could fill out the form. That's how that type of element is going to work. If you want somebody to go to a different portion of your Unbounce page, all you have to do is add in the element ID in the go to URL section and it'll take them right to it. But you don't always have to leave somebody just on the same Unbounce page. You can send them to an external page if you want to. So let's say you wanted to just send somebody to, I don't know, the Paid Media Pros homepage. Now, whenever somebody clicks on this URL, they're going to go to the Paid Media Pros homepage. We can also pass through the URL parameters. So if you're using any type of UTMs or any sort of custom tracking on the end of a URL, you can click this little checkbox so that when somebody goes through to that Paid Media Pros URL from this button, the page will retain all of the different UTM parameters, anything like that, when you send them to Paid Media Pros, so that in the Google Analytics account, utilizing any of the audience rules that we have in place, you can still retain those UTMs and track where those people are coming from. Lastly, in this section, you can choose the target, which basically means where you send people. So right now, same tab or window means that when somebody clicks on this button, the entire page will send us only to Paid Media Pros, and this Unbounce landing page will no longer be open in their browser. You can change that to say you want it to be a new tab or window so that it opens up a new tab when somebody clicks on it, or you can change it to topmost frame or parent frame. So you can customize the user experience when they click on your call to action button. You can then adjust the button text a little bit further. I know we changed it to learn more. You can change the font and the font size, as well as make it bold or italic or leave it normal. And then lastly, you can change the appearance of the specific button itself. So again, right now it's a solid color, but you can change it to a gradient or an image if you want to. And then you can customize what it looks like when people are engaging with it. So when it's by itself, it's going to be this teal color, and then it's going to have the text color as white. You can then adjust to either have a shadow, a highlight, you can adjust the opacity if you want to. You can also add a border. You can also adjust the corner radius if you want the corners to be more or less rounded. But you'll notice up here that that is going to be in the up section, which means what it looks like when somebody is just viewing it on the page. You can also change what the hover color is, which right now you'll see down here, it is automatically checked to say create appearance based on upstate. So when I go back to my preview, you'll see that it automatically is going to change the color just slightly whenever I hover over it. So this is what it's doing to create that automatic view, just in the same way it created the automatic gradient for us in the section builder at the beginning. But if you want to customize what the hover color looks like, you can uncheck this box, and then you can change what you want the color to look like. So if you want it to change into a blue or a red or something else when somebody hovers over the button, you can adjust the color to be customized to what you want it to look like. You can do the same thing with the active state, which it'll automatically create for you if you want to, or you can customize it based on what you want it to look like when people have engaged with that button. The next item down the element list over here is the lightbox button. And again, this is too advanced for what this video is going to be. So we're going to skip down to the form section, which is going to take us all the way back up to the top. So I want to show you what it looks like when you build a form. So I'm actually going to just delete this form. We're going to add a new one in its place. So I'm going to come over here, click, drag, drop. And now you can see that we get to design our form from scratch. You could have also edited the prior form, but I do want to start off with this different piece here. So the first thing is that there are some predefined fields, which are the easy ones: email, first name, last name, phone number, age. So if you want any of these to be added to the form, all you have to do is click them and they'll be added. You can see that the first name box has now popped up. You can add in the label that you want it to be. So if you just wanted to say first, you can do that. Seems a little bit silly, so I'm not going to do that. You can hide the label if, I don't know, you feel like making people guess what they should do. You can then adjust into the placeholder text. So as you know, sometimes the different forms that you'll fill out, sometimes they have information already added in to give you a little bit of a hint of what it should look like. So if you want to do that, this is what will show up. And then as soon as somebody clicks into that field, it'll disappear so they can type their name. And then down here, you can start to customize the different form fields for your tracking purposes. So this is where we're going to start to talk about the form, but also some of the custom tracking you can do within Unbounce. When you create a new form, and when you're trying to utilize form information in your CRM, you need to make sure that the name and ID are going to match what you have in your CRM so that everything will map appropriately. Right now, this is auto-generated to be first_name. But if you want this to be different, you can change it. So if for whatever reason your CRM has things set up as first name with no underscore, you can have that, or adjust it to whatever you need to be to customize to make sure it's matching appropriately in your CRM. Lastly, you can decide if you want this to be a required field. If the name has to be in place, you can click this checkbox. Now you'll see an asterisk up here, and that designates that it has to be filled out for the form to be submitted. But if you don't, you can uncheck. That asterisk goes away, and now I don't have to fill out that form field to submit the form. Any of the other predefined fields work the same way, and for the most part, you've got all the same builders for all these different pieces, but you can customize what questions you're asking in your forms. So you can add a text field, whether it's a single line or multi-line text. So let's just look at what single looks like. Again, here we have all the same builder, but you get to start from scratch as to what you want somebody to fill out. So first name is a single line text field, but it's just designated for first name. So the builder is going to be identical here. You can add a checkbox if you want that. So you can give somebody a specific question and ask them what they want to do. So I'll just fill out an example. So now you can see I'm asking somebody to tell us what your favorite color is, and you can add red, green, blue, whatever you want. You can also add an additional field if you want, and you can then subsequently remove it if you decide that you don't want it. So these are highly customizable to whatever you want them to be. If you also decide that you want to start moving these around, you can click the up arrow, and now this question is in a higher priority than the single text. And if you decide you don't want it, you can click the trash can and it goes away. You can add a radio button if you want to. Similar thing to setting up the checkboxes. You can also add a drop-down menu, which subsequently has its own drop-down menu. All of these are going to be preset, whether it's your country, state, province, state or province, gender, age, income, day of the week, month, or time zone. So let's just say we wanted to add gender. It's defaulted this to be a required question. The drop-down, then, even though we can't see it here, will have the select your gender as the placeholder up at the top, and then male and female below if we want to have that. So again, these are pretty customizable. With some of the other ones, you might have a lot more to create and make sure that those are there, but Unbounce does pre-fill a lot of the data for you to try and make it easier so you don't have to start completely from scratch. The last field might seem a little bit silly, but it's really important if you are trying to figure out any sort of tracking. And not every marketer needs to use this, but in some instances, depending on how your CRM is set up, this is a very helpful tool, and that's hidden field. So I'm going to click on this. Now you'll see that the builder looks similar to what those single line entries were, but instead of having actual titles, values, placeholder text, that sort of thing, the only thing we have is the field name and ID and the default value. This type of form field will not be visible to the end user, but depending on how you're using this landing page, you can customize the information in these hidden fields to track back into your CRM so you know where you're generating leads from. One example here would be if you have a dedicated landing page for a specific campaign on LinkedIn, something along those lines. You can come over here and add in the value and have it be UTM source, and then have the value be LinkedIn. This is a very basic example, but this is the type of thing that allows you to map leads from Unbounce appropriately into your CRM, since they're not filling it out on your website. If your website needs to be able to integrate with these forms, this is a great way to make sure that you're tracking everything appropriately. So for now, I'm just going to hit done so we can see what this looks like. And now you'll see that the formatting is terrible. The questions are still in there that we had, but you'll also notice that there is not the hidden field. What I'm actually going to do is come in here. I'm going to add a box, do that, send it backward. And now it's a little bit easier to see that that hidden form field is not in there because it's not something that you need to see from the public facing side. Now the last element I want to look at on this page is going to be this video embed. And again, I know there's already one on this page, so let's scroll down. And now you can see this video embed here. I've selected it. Now the properties editor over here on the right has popped up. It's very easy to embed videos into Unbounce landing pages. All you have to do is click edit code. You'll paste in the embed code, whether you get it from Wistia, YouTube, wherever it is, and then hit save, and it'll pop up exactly like we saw it on the page here. You can then adjust the size and dimensions in the same way, or you can adjust it based on dragging and dropping. But obviously your dimensions are going to have to stay relatively stable, or else you're going to have a very wonky looking video. Going through a quick few last things in this editor box, you can see up here at the top that we've got copy, paste, duplicate, delete. All of those apply to whatever elements you end up having selected. So you can easily add more elements, move them around, adjust what you need to based on how you want this Unbounce page to end up. The other thing you'll see down here at the bottom that I think is very important for a lot of marketers is that this little bouncing box here is on the mobile icon. And you can decide if you want there to be a mobile specific version of your page or not. So right now it had already defaulted to having it, but I just turned it off. So effectively what that means is that anytime somebody comes to my page on a mobile device, they're going to see exactly this same layout that I created for desktop. But as we all know, that's probably a terrible idea, and we should customize our experience to mobile users to make it easier for them to convert and engage with your brand. So let's click this toggle. Now we have our mobile version turned back on. And if you want to edit the mobile version, you come over here, click on the mobile icon, and now the entire builder will show up the same landing page, but with all of the mobile elements. You'll see here one of the biggest things to note is that no matter what you do, you need to make sure that your mobile version looks okay. Just because your desktop version is laid out well does not mean that your mobile version is. With the template I chose, I guarantee you that the form that originally came with this page was over here in the mobile visible field, but since I deleted it and created a new form, it set it up outside the bounds of the visible page. So even though it's technically a part of the Unbounce page, it's all highlighted in red because it is no longer visible on the mobile version. So to make sure that this page is user-friendly, we need to come over here, drag and drop this entire form, and add it into the page. Probably need to do the same with this background so people actually know what's going on. So again, even though I put the box in the mobile field, it's still too big. It's telling me that this is going to be too big and it's not within the bounds of a mobile variant. So once you do that, get it all squared away, the red background goes away, but every time something is not mobile friendly or falls outside the bounds of the landing page guidelines, Unbounce is going to highlight it in red to let you know that it needs to be adjusted so that it's totally visible on the page. All the builder functionality is going to be the exact same for mobile, but again, you need to make sure that you're customizing things so that it looks okay on a mobile version and that things are lined up within the visible bounds of a mobile device. Otherwise, the user experience is going to be terrible on a mobile device. Every time you make a change on one page or the other, you'll see that now there are changes that have affected the other view. So you need to go back into the desktop version and make sure everything still looks okay. So let's scroll up to the top because I messed with the form up here. Everything still looks fine there, so no issues. But when you do make changes to the mobile version, things do look different on desktop. One of the very helpful things that I have come to know is that you can hide elements on each version of the page. So for example, just to show you how the functionality works, let's say on desktop, we don't want this image, but we do want it to show up on mobile. So while we're in the desktop editor, we can come over here and click hide. Now we can go over to the mobile version and you'll see that the image is still there because we have not hidden it on the mobile version. So anytime you want something to be hidden or visible on each page, you can just click this little eye next to the element of the page and it'll hide it or make it visible based on what you want the page to look like for a desktop versus mobile version. If you've been paying attention, you've noticed there are a couple other tabs in this right-hand editor that I want to touch on really quickly. First is page properties. There are a few different things here that I'm going to mostly gloss over. You can adjust some different text styles to make them the default. So when you create a new text field, it'll start off with black as the text color and links will always be this bright blue or whatever color you want them to be. You can customize that. You can then also change the title and metadata of your pages. I think this is really impactful if you're going to use these pages almost for anything that you're going to send paid traffic to. The title is going to be what's going to show up on the tab when somebody's on their browser. Keywords, descriptions, those have a stronger impact on SEO, but it doesn't hurt to make sure that your pages are aligned on all fronts. If you are very against having search engines find your pages, you can check this box that says hide my page from search engines. This is really important if you're going to create lots of different PPC landing pages that have lots of the same content on them, because otherwise it's going to look to Google and Microsoft like you have duplicate content, which can sometimes be an issue. I don't know much about SEO, but I know that when I create lots of different landing pages for my clients, I always check this box to make sure that we're not going to have them show up as the landing page for an organic listing when they only need to have paid traffic going to them. The last thing I want to talk about here is this goals tab. And this is where you set up what the conversion goals are going to be for your pages. So now I'm going to shift out of the landing page builder discussion and talk about the testing and tracking setup. Each of your different pages can have a different goal assigned to it. So when you're trying to track conversions to do your multivariate testing, you can see conversion performance directly in Unbounce. If you have a form on the page or a specific button click, something along those lines, you can choose the checkbox next to it to designate this as the goal or the conversion action that we want to count for this page. Think about this as the lead generation form submit on Facebook or LinkedIn versus a conversion on a URL. If you want this form submission to be your conversion action, you can check this box and that will be tracked. But if you don't have a form on your landing page and you're using this just as an intro and a splash page to where somebody needs to then click through to another URL and that's where they can end up making a purchase or submitting a lead form, you can either utilize the link click as the conversion action, which can be a good indicator, but it's not really the final step. What's really better is if you use external conversion tracking. And here you can set up a custom pixel on your website to track when somebody converts, and it's just the Unbounce version of that pixel. So just like we would set up Facebook conversion tracking, Google Ads, Microsoft Ads, LinkedIn, Unbounce has its own dedicated conversion tracking that you can integrate directly on your website through a plugin using Google Tag Manager to track when somebody converts on that final conversion action, to have that information in the Unbounce platform. Once we finalize the page and built it exactly how we want to, we can click save. And then since this is a placeholder account, you'll see that this unpublished button is grayed out, but typically this button would say publish on it and it would be that bright blue again, and you can click that button and publish the page to make it live and usable in your campaigns. Now we're back into a portion of the main navigation similar to what we saw earlier, but only for this individual page. So here you can see that right here I've got example page 1. I can change the name of that if I want to. I can also then make some adjustments, but here we'll start to see the overview of the page. Right now this is the URL. It's on unbouncepages.com and then my example page. You can change the URL. Again, I'm not going to go through this whole setup, but effectively you can utilize either a WordPress URL. There's a direct integration to make this part of your WordPress website, or you can create a subdomain on your main site by setting that up with your developer, and making sure that you have a CNAME set up. If you want to publish the page, you will have to do that over here first. You'll need to go through and make sure that everything looks good, so you can change your URL if you want to, all of these different things, and then you'll just click Publish Page. Right now, since that page is horrendous and it's mostly just a template, I'm not going to do that. But once you do have your page published, this is still going to be what this main section looks like every time you come back and click on this page. There will be a data chart that shows up here that shows you performance. You can then set your page to test in different ways. You can do standard, which is sending all of your traffic to one page. You can do a smart traffic campaign, which is effectively once you have multiple variants, which I'll show you here in just a second. Unbounce will optimize between the variants it thinks is going to perform best. Or you can set up an A/B or multivariate test depending on how many variants you have. So let's say we do want to set up a test. You can do that in a couple different ways. You can choose Add Variant, or the easier way, in my mind, is to come over here to these three dots, click Duplicate, and now we've created an inactive variant. To get this test started so we can do a split test between these two, we need to change the type of test that we have running to an A/B test. Now you'll see that there is a weight number here at 100%. If we want to do an A/B test between these two, you can click on the three dots, click Add to Test, and now you'll see that we have two variants up here at the top. If I want to change the traffic estimation, I can split so that the first variant only has 50%, and then you need to adjust the bottom to also have 50%. Click Confirm. And now we have a 50-50 A/B test set up on this page. The benefit of utilizing Unbounce for something like this is that the URL is always going to be the same, but depending on which variant is being shown, you'll have some sort of understanding of which layout works best. You can edit each of these variants independently, so if for whatever reason you wanted to create a completely new landing page, you can edit this page, variant 1, make all the adjustments that you want while leaving this prior one alone. And now you've got the original version versus the updated version, and you can see the performance between the two. You'll be able to see the visitors, the views, and the conversions and the conversion rate for each of those. And then Unbounce will give you a confidence level to help you decide which page to utilize across more of your campaigns. But that's just an A/B test. Let's say that you wanted to do another page. You can still do the same thing. Duplicate a new variant if you want to. You can make all the adjustments to that page by clicking Edit. Then if you want to change the traffic estimation, you can say that the champion maybe still gets 50, but maybe the two additional variants get 25% each. And now we've got a three-way test running with the different traffic splits, as you can see here. Overall, setting up these different tests honestly could not be easier, and you'll get to see all of the different performance data in this chart up here at the top, and then in these different line items for each variant. If you decide that one of them then isn't the variant that you want to use, you can deactivate the variant, and now it shifts traffic back to only having the first and the copy 1. You'll see that the traffic split sent all of variant 2's traffic up to the champion to take us right back up to 100% total. Scrolling back up to the top, you'll see there are a couple other pieces here. Leads is the first tab, and drawing the same similarities from Facebook or LinkedIn lead generation ads, since this landing page uses a form, all of the form fills will end up populating here. So each time somebody fills out your form with name, favorite color, email, whatever it is, all of those will show up here for you to download and keep track of. So you can get all of your leads manually out of the Unbounce platform, but you can also set up integrations to have them map directly into your CRM. As you can see here, there are a handful of native integrations that you can utilize. You can get an email notification, you can send it to MailChimp. Any of these different platforms that are not grayed out a little bit are going to be a free integration that you can use right away. If you upgrade your plans, you can utilize Marketo, Infusionsoft, HubSpot, Salesforce. You can also set up any different integrations that are powered by Zapier, but again, you need to have your subscription plan upgraded for that. You could also set up a webhook if your CRM doesn't have a direct integration with either Unbounce or Zapier. You can set up a webhook to make sure that you're capturing all of the information when somebody fills out a form on your Unbounce landing page. Now let's hop back into the Unbounce homepage. And like I said earlier, when you have all of your pages built out, this is what they'll look like. Each one of them will get a line item here. It'll tell you what type of testing it's currently running, if it has a desktop and mobile specific version. And then you'll be able to see the high level stats for that page specifically. You won't be able to see the variants here, but you'll be able to see whatever the entire page is doing. Each time you have a new page, there'll be a new line item that you can have associated here. At the beginning of the video, I talked about this left-hand navigation, so I want to go through this a little bit. This first section here is organization around groups. groups. And this helps once you have a lot of different pages in your account. Right now there's only one, it's very easy to keep track of, but one of the benefits of utilizing Unbounce is that you can create new pages really quickly for all different sorts of needs. So if you get into a scenario where you have 20, 50, 100 landing pages, this organizational tool can be really helpful. So let's say we want to come over here and create a new group. We can adjust what we want the page group to be called and then create the group. You'll see that there's an All Pages section here and Paid Media Pros. All Pages will always include all of the pages. It's aptly named. And then Paid Media Pros, right now you can see there's 0. So if we click on it, it's going to change and show that there are no pages added to this group. This is going to look like what the default homepage was when we didn't have any pages built just yet. But if we want to change where pages are, we can come back to this All Pages section, come over here to the 3 dots, add or remove from groups, and then we can choose what groups we want this page to be added to, update. And now anytime we want to come over and find all the Paid Media Pros URLs, we'll find all of these pages listed in here. So this is just an organizational tool, basically adding things to folders, but it can be really helpful if you start to scale up and see lots of different pages coming through. When we first hopped in and looked at the different templates, we talked about the pop-ups and sticky bars and amps that are available as well as landing pages. Again, I'm not going to go through these in this video, but this is where you'll be able to create those for your different Unbounce accounts, and those will live at the account level and then can be added to individual pages as you see fit. You then have a lot of different account settings around integrations, the domains that you have set up, the users on the account. But the last thing I want to talk about is tying back into the conversion tracking that we just talked about a little bit, and that's under settings. Unbounce has an account level script manager. Script Manager allows you to add any of your tracking pixels to one area of the account, and it will be applied to all of the pages within a specific domain that you assign. So think about the scenario where we have 50, 100, 200 landing pages for one individual business. Each one of those needs to have the Google Analytics tag, ideally the Google Tag Manager code, or the individual channel codes for Facebook, Google, LinkedIn, Microsoft, all of these different platforms. Script Manager allows you to do that all in one area. So here, we only need to add our first script. You can then choose a direct integration of Google Analytics, where you just have to add your tracking ID. You can also choose Google Tag Manager. Again, just add the container ID. Or you can choose a custom script if you have something outside of those 2 platforms that you want to use to get those set up. It's very easy to get started, and then once you add things in, let's just go to Add Script Details. Again, over here, it's prompting me to use the container ID, and then you can see where the script is being used. When you have Unbounce set up, you can set up a number of different domains, whether somebody is coming to your WordPress site, or let's say you want to have 2, 3, 4 different subdomains on your website. You can choose which subdomains this Google Tag Manager applies to. So each page you make, when you designate what the URL is and what subdomain it uses, you're then effectively opting it into which scripts you're adding to the page. So this is a super easy way to get all of your scripts added to an Unbounce account without having to add them individually to your pages. It saves a ton of time and headaches, and it's so easy to troubleshoot if something has gone wrong. The last thing that I want to talk about is pricing. And the biggest benefit is that if you utilize the Paid Media Pros affiliate link, you're going to get a discount. So if you click on the show notes below, or you type in the link that you see on the bottom of your screen right now, you'll land on a page that looks like this. And this means that you get 20% off your first 3 months if you sign up for a monthly plan, or 20% off a full year of Unbounce. This is a no-brainer to me. This platform is fantastic and you get a discount. I don't see what the problem is. On top of that, you can choose whichever plan makes the most sense for you based on the amount of traffic you have. You can go anywhere from about $64 a month, which is originally $80, but with our 20% off, you're saving a little bit there, or scale all the way up to about a $240 cost per month. And it all depends on the number of conversions, the number of domains, the number of visitors that you're trying to get. So you can choose the plan that fits for you. The best part is you can start a 14-day free trial with no obligation. You can come in, utilize the builder, test how it works, see if it integrates with your platforms, make sure that it fits your needs, and then get started building out all of your custom landing pages with Unbounce. Thanks for watching our video. If you thought it was useful, give us a thumbs up below.
We release a new video at least once a week, so if you want to get notified of when a new one comes out, be sure to subscribe to the Paid Media Pros channel.